3, 2, 1, boom. What's up, champions? Coach Rail Andrews here, and I have Dr. Shaun Talbott here. We're going to talk about the power and the importance of the gut brain axis and the microbiome. I've also got David Schuman here from NUC Combine. So what I wanted to do is put two experts together. And Dr. Talbott is just when it comes to medical, I mean, he has more letters behind his name than any alphabet. He's written at least 9 books. He used to be, his main focus was part of the Olympic Training Center, helping athletes to have an edge, part of the U.S. cycling team and the U.S. rowing team. He's done over 100 triathlons, just an amazing man, and he knows his stuff. And we've got David Schuman as the CEO of the NUC Combines. And, he's just, his mission is going out there in the high schools and taking high school kids through that to college and then professionally NFL. And as I'm getting ready to go out there and help these athletes in the combine to have an edge, I thought, what better way? I'm going to put the expert together. And David, really quick, just fire off a couple of the big time NFL athletes that have gone through your system and made it to the NFL.
Yeah, well, 4 of the last 6 Heisman Trophy winners. So Marcus Mariota, Johnny Manziel, Derrick Henry, Kyler Murray. Those are 4 pretty big names.
Nice.
So those guys came through the programs in different capacities. A couple played in our All-Star game. A couple came to camps and stuff. So yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's awesome. All right, so Dr. Talbott, yeah, and maybe Johnny Manziel definitely could have used some of our products to help him stay focused. So Dr. Talbott, I'm going to start with you. So why is the gut health important for, high caliber athletes, and how can it help them, the Amare products to have that edge? Because when they get to the level that David's taken them to, or the Olympic level that you're used to, that micro edge is massive.
Yeah, exactly. And that micro edge coming from the gut is something that most athletes and most coaches don't fully appreciate. So it's right now it's still like this kind of undiscovered secret, except for the people who are finding it and getting that edge. But let's be clear about this. It's not being able to do something in the gut and see your performance go from here to here, right? It's not that sort of like performance enhancement kind of a thing. It will enhance your performance, but not in the way that people think. Helping your gut isn't going to help you run faster or run further or jump higher or lift more. But what it will do is enable you to get that mental edge. And if you can get that mental edge, have better focus, have better resilience, have lower stress, have faster recovery, have deeper sleep, all of those kinds of what we would call incremental gains can all add up to, if it's a mental focus thing, maybe you get 1 or 2 more reps when you're in the gym. And then that leads to better strength and better power. Maybe it's when you're, doing something endurance and, you're able to keep going when the other guy starts to fade away a little bit. Those are these little sort of incremental things that can make all the difference. And the thing that I think that is really important, we can get into the sort of the biochemistry if you want to, of like, why do they sleep better and why do they recover faster and why are they injured less and why are they not getting sick and things like that. But a big piece of this whole puzzle is that gut and mental health is really the sort of new frontier, because everybody, let's be honest, everybody who has access to someone like David or access to someone like me on the nutrition side, they know everything that they need to know about what their carbohydrate intake needs to look like, what their protein intake needs to look like, what their vitamins they need, what their hydration should be like. All that kind of stuff is pretty well understood. And because of that, everybody's doing it. Everybody's on the same plane when it comes to that. These new ideas around the new science of gut health and how your neurotransmitters are made in your gut, the second brain, and that can have an effect in the first brain in your head and can help you go to those higher levels. That's not very well understood by most people right now. So it is still that little piece that people can get to take their performance to another level.
That's awesome. I'd like to go into some of those things a little deeper, but I want to go over to you, David. Do you have a question around this for Dr. Talbott?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I guess more as an adult and not just as an athlete, is how does it affect your actual capacity to last longer and to be able to endure. For me, it's being able to get more out of myself work wise or in my
Right.
workouts. As with athletes, it's helping them understand. Like you said, like they may not notice it right away, and with athletes, being able to feel different, how will they feel that makes them by making that brain to gut connection and getting the right things in their body, what can they start to realize and feel?
Yeah. So one thing that I'll say both will feel, right? Whether you're an athlete or non-athlete. One of the really cool aspects of what will happen when you get your gut brain axis in balance, meaning the right signals coming out of your gut, the right perception coming from your brain, the right signals in between, which I'll talk about what those signals are in just a second. What people will actually say back is they'll say they have better resilience, right? They'll say that in the face of a stressful event, they'll be able to step into that stress versus step away from that stress, right? They'll be able to handle more. And because of that, because you can handle more, you're less affected by the stress, you're less beaten down by it, so you're less fatigued, therefore you have more energy. You have less brain fog, so therefore you're sharper mentally. Somebody who's not an athlete would just say like, yeah, I'm able to handle stress better. That's what we call stress resilience, and we can actually measure that in our research studies. An athlete will experience that same exact stuff, and they might say like, hey, in the rest of my life, I'm more stress resilient. I'm not flying off the handle. I'm able to handle things better, all that kind of stuff. But how they'll notice it from a performance perspective, it'll be easier for them to get into the zone mentally when they're doing their workouts or their competitions, and they'll bounce back from their training a lot better. They'll basically be able to get more out of their training than they were before. And the reason for both sides of that, the reason that the athlete is recovering better and getting more value out of their training, and the reason that the regular person in their life is having better stress resilience, is because of the biochemistry across your gut-brain axis. So what do I mean by that? We know just in the last few years that your gut is the source of most of your neurotransmitters. So 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. That's the neurotransmitter that helps us be happier. 70% of your dopamine is made in your gut. That's the neurotransmitter that helps us with motivation. Most of your norepinephrine that helps with focus. Most of the GABA that helps you relax. Most of the signals that regulate your immune system are coming from your gut microbiome. So if your immune system is stronger, you're not sick as much, you're less likely to get hurt. Your gut, because it affects your immune system, also affects your level of inflammation in the body. If your inflammation is better, you're able to recover from damaging exercise a lot more. And if you're not an athlete, lower inflammation is associated with a lower risk of virtually every disease you can imagine. So there's a lot of like rethinking how we approach getting people just to be healthier and feel good, or getting athletes to perform at their peak because of what we're learning about the microbiome over these last 3, 4, 5 years. So it's really, really exciting time because it gives us new tools.
I'm curious about diet because I saw this great documentary on Netflix. It's called, I can't believe it slips my mind, but it basically was an
Is it about going plant-based?
Yes.
It's probably called Game Changers.
Game Changers, that's
Yeah.
it. And then I watched another one, which was the precursor to that, which was about 10 years ago, because I've gone in the last 30 days to a majority plant-based diet.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see if I can handle shifting all the way. But still have every once in a while having a craving on a Saturday or Sunday for a burger or something.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you.
but I'm trying to figure out if some of it's, I already seen like weight loss and stuff like that come out of that. I figured that would be one of the big parts. But what I was surprised at was feeling better and starting to like perform better. And almost like I noticed when I have like a steak or a burger on a Saturday night and go deviate because, basically for the most part, I've been eating plant-based.
Yeah.
I actually now notice it, which is kind of surprising to me. I never thought that would be the way because, I'm a big guy, played football, and I coach football players, and I never thought that would be something that would be that important. And after seeing the documentary, I said, hey, let me try it. Let me see how I feel, and surprised, How much of that is that affect does the plant-based diet help with the gut? And
yeah. So we actually recommend that one of the most important things you can do for your gut health is to eat more fiber. And the best way to get more fiber is to eat more plants, more fruits and vegetables, more whole grains, more high, brightly colored fruits and vegetables are going to be a good source of fiber and a good source of phytonutrients and micronutrients. But they're also, whenever somebody goes plant-based, which is awesome, I love when people do that, they're getting more fiber, they're getting more phytonutrients, they're getting more of all the stuff that you need, but you're also getting less of processed foods and sugar and all the crap the big difference between those two ways of eating is that the plant-based way, the higher fiber, higher phytonutrients, give the nutrients to the bacteria in your gut that make all those compounds that I just talked about. So if you can nourish them in the right ways, awesome. It doesn't mean that the meat is bad. You don't want to be eating steak dinners, every single night of the week. But, if you look at, the Mediterranean diet, for example, that's one of the diets that we recommend all the time. It's high in plants, it's high in healthy fats, it's high in phytonutrients, it's low in sugar, there's no processed food, and they use meat sort of like, almost like a garnish, it's not the focus of the plate. It's kind of like a side dish, So whether that's beef or pork or chicken or salmon or any other kind of fatty fish, that's a fantastic way to eat. It tastes good. It nourishes your microbiome. That's going to help you feel better. And then when you deviate from that, just like what you said, then people go, oh, I don't feel so good, and you eat a hamburger or something like that. Not that you can't cheat every once in a while, but being on that sort of a plan is really, really good.
Yeah, and Dr. Talbott, I feel the same way. I go through the same thing, David. But so in terms of, well, two things, because you touched on it a little, and I know a big thing for athletes is joint pain, injuries, having different kind of pain like that. And I just had 4 surgeries in the past 4 years, 3 hip surgeries, and those I went through using whatever you might call those unconventional opioids or stuff like this. My last surgery, I was able to go all natural, holistic with our products and not have to take any opioids. So, and I was using the Relief, the Fundamentals, of course, with our foundation, and our hemp CBD. So, because I know that's a big thing. Are they legal? David's always very concerned about that for his athletes. And how did that make such a difference for me?
Yeah, so in your situation, you had the example of going through a surgical procedure and then having pain and inflammation and having to go on an opioid painkiller prior to using some of these Amare products. And then you have the advantage of going through, well, I don't know if it's advantage of going through another surgery, but the experience of going through another surgery and not having to go to those opioids because your body is in a better place. Your inflammation is lower to begin with, and your cell's ability to clean up their own damage and repair that damage and rejuvenate from that insult of that surgery is at a much, much higher level. So imagine that you're in an athletic situation. You use the Amare products to improve your gut health so your biochemistry is better. You improve your gut health so your absorption of nutrients is better, so you have a better level of building blocks. You are nourishing the microbiome so it's sending the right signals to your immune system and your inflammatory system. So that's in a state that's in more of a healing, rebuilding state versus a breakdown catabolic state. So, the exact same thing that you just experienced is the same thing that an athlete's going to experience on a daily basis when they have that stress of the continued workouts, that's breaking down their muscles and stressing their bones and stressing their cardiovascular system. They can bounce back from that quicker and more fully. And because of that, they're able to reap more from that workout in terms of an exercise stimulus. And then the next day they're going to be better and able to do it again without getting into overtraining, without getting into injuries, without getting into getting upper respiratory tract infections, colds and flus and things like that. That was one of the main things that I did with the Olympic training centers and with the US ski team and with the US Track and Field Association is, there was the mental piece of it, right? What can we do nutritionally to help these athletes get a mental edge so they can go harder and go faster? And, again, it's not like we were taking them like this. We were able to maintain them when somebody else was fading away. So that's the mental wellness piece. But the exact same things that we were doing in the gut to help their brain for those performance benefits, we were getting all of these recovery benefits, these resilience benefits, these anti-injury benefits, these anti-sickness benefits, because their inflammation and their immune system were in the right place.
David, I got a question, but I need, you know what, maybe we don't have to mention names in here. I'll just use the example, because I can't help but think, there's of many, but there's a big athlete right now. We won't mention his names. There's a warrant out for his arrest now. He walked away from 2 NFL teams, a $30 million contract. And, a big part of it now is that it's his mental wellness and stuff. And I know, right, as an athlete, I know as even an actor, the stress, like when everything's going great, everything's great, but then all of a sudden you get an injury, your career's over, or something like that. And they deal with all that stress, the depression on the back end. How can our products help the athletes in that kind of scenario?
Yeah. So when you were describing that, I don't know if people can see, I was probably just a little thumbnail. I went like this, right? I pointed to my head. One of the things we harp on here at Amare is to tell people that how you feel is not just in your head, it's also in your gut. That the thoughts and the behaviors and the perceptions that you're getting here in your head can certainly come from the stories we tell ourselves and the situations that we're in and things like that. But your ability to be resilient in the face of that stress, or be in a good mood, or be able to have something that we would measure that's called cognitive flexibility. Your ability to sort of think your way out of a problem instead of just completely blowing up. We can improve that kind of stuff. Things that we used to think of as just head things, now we think of as gut brain things. And by focusing on the gut, by doing all the things we just talked about, get the right fibers, get the right phytonutrients, even supplement with the right strains of bacteria, the right kinds of fibers, the right kinds of herbs, get the gut right, it really makes you perform a lot better up here. So, somebody could be in a terrible situation, they could get hurt and they could just fly off the handle. But if your resilience is better, if your cognitive flexibility is better, if your problem solving abilities are better, you're gonna handle that situation a lot differently than somebody who's in another situation. So we tell people all the time, how you feel is not just in your head, it's also in your gut. And there's all kinds of things that we can do naturally to improve how those tissues talk to each other.
Awesome. David, do you have any more questions right now? I have some, but I want to hear from you.
Well, as far as from, I have a pretty good understanding about it, like I'm pretty well read in it. Like what are these products and how are they used, and talked a lot about it, and what are the effects, on an athlete, and how do they incorporate into their diet?
Yeah. So that's one thing that when we formulated the products, we were really focused on making this as simple as possible, right? Because we could sit here and we could talk about what strains of bacteria that we use and what are the studies and why do we use these fibers and not other ones, and there's a lot of thought that's been gone into these products from an ingredient by ingredient perspective. Every single one of them is validated in human clinical trials to do all this gut brain axis stuff that we're talking about. But we don't want people to come in and go, well, geez, that's a lot of science, and now I'm confused, and I don't understand that part of it, and whatever. It has to be something that's really simple to plug in to somebody's life so that they can get a benefit. And secondarily from that, right? So the science has to be there, but then the second piece of that is that the science has to be there at a level that somebody can feel it, where after taking it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they can legitimately sit back and go, you know what? I can feel it. I feel it when I'm on it, and I feel it, and I don't feel it when I'm off it, or I feel worse when I'm off it, or I don't perform the way when I'm off it. So that way, when there's a real it's not just scientific, it's like a meaningful effect in that person's life. And we hear that kind of thing all the time. So in the products, we've already gone through all the science and said, all right, this is the strain of bacteria that we want because it's been shown in human trials to help with stress levels. This is the herb that we want because it's been shown in human trials to help with sleep quality. This is the herb that we want because it's been shown in human trials to help with pain levels. And, we go through all that kind of stuff. So the athlete or the coach or the mom or the dad just has to look at the products and go, yep, that's the one. I'm going to try it, see how it works in me. And, we get some of the most amazing stories back about how it works in their individual life.
Awesome. Now, a couple more questions. I want to get you guys out of here on time. So Dave, I was really happy when I reached out to David. Like he shared, he's already on that mindset. He was already doing research on the gut health, and he was taking, some probiotics and the different products. So why are products over the ones that he's piecemealing through the different stores?
Yeah, most of the products that are out there that you're able to just access on the shelf or access online are not the clinically validated versions, right? They're very, very often generic versions of the clinically validated ones. So we see this kind of thing all the time. One of the strains of bacteria that we use is called Lactobacillus helveticus 52. People will like that one. We know increases serotonin levels. We know it reduces inflammation. We know it can help with mental fitness. We know it can help with physical fitness. It can do a whole bunch of different things if you get that specific strain. But people will just go, oh, I'm just going to go get a probiotic, any old probiotic that isn't going to have that same effect. Same thing goes for, we use a form of turmeric called Mariva that is absorbed about 30 times better than most of the stuff on the market. That one can reduce pain as quickly as Tylenol and ibuprofen. But people will hear us talk about Mariva, and then they might go, oh, I can just get any old turmeric, and it's not gonna have the same effect. So it really is that scientific specificity that we build in ingredient by ingredient that are in the products, again, that are very easy to just plug into your life. You just take them and get the benefits, versus going out there and trying to piecemeal and say, well, maybe this one would be good enough, and it's not, and then you just wasted $30 or $40. Well, maybe that one would be, and it's not, and you would just wasted $30 or $40. So, that's part of the difference. And it's one thing for us to, show our ingredient panels and show the research and our technical data sheets and things like that, and put together our videos so people don't have to tell the story like I'm telling it. They can just share a video with whoever they want to talk to. But then the real proof of it comes when someone goes, all right, I'll give it a try. I tried another probiotic and it didn't do anything for me. Let me try yours. And then they go, oh, okay. Now I get it. Now I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of a couple, it was an aha thing for my son. He was at one of your presentations. I'm just trying to think of some of the key products that would be important in David's world. And obviously it's our protein. And you talked about, like he literally just bought this big tub, 54 grams, the Monster Gorilla protein. And I'm like, dude, I got the protein here for you. But then when he heard you talk, he threw that stuff away. So how does our protein compare to those million other proteins out there and the cheaper ones that they can get?
Yeah. And this is again where, like, we look at the science, we build something, and then we have to try to get people to try it. And once they try it, they go, oh, all right, I get it now why it's better. Like with our protein, we first of all, we use a chickpea protein. It's got all the things it has the absence of all the things that you want, right? So a lot of times these days you have to say to somebody, all right, it's sugar-free, it's non-GMO, it's vegan, it's no artificial flavors and colors, and I'll go through all that kind of stuff first. And then they're like, okay, great, it doesn't have any of that stuff. Tell me more. So we use a chickpea protein because a lot of people want plant proteins these days instead of like dairy proteins and that kind of thing. And so we want to do plant proteins. But as soon as you say plant protein, people make a face. They're like, oh, I've tried those plant proteins before. They're gritty and they're kind of clumpy and they're just gross. We use a chickpea protein because the way that this particular one is extracted, without getting into too much detail, it's a low temperature, long duration extraction, which results in a particle size that in the mouth, it tastes really, really creamy. And so one of the problems with plant proteins is that they taste gritty because most of them are extracted under high heat very quickly, and it changes the particle size. So people taste it and they go, huh, that tastes good in my mouth. Then after they use it for a couple of days, they start to feel good in their bodies because what it's also doing is nourishing the microbiome. Chickpea protein comes along with these compounds called oligosaccharides, which are specific kinds of fibers that the bacteria in the gut will use as their primary fuel source. So you're getting a protein that, first of all, tastes good. You're getting a protein that has all the essential amino acids to build your muscles and help with your appetite and help with your fat burning and all the things you want a protein to do. But then it's also nourishing your microbiome and improving your gut integrity for all the gut benefits that we just talked about in terms of gut-brain axis. So like people look at that and go, well, it's a protein, but I can go to Costco and I can get double the protein for half the price. Why would I do that? And I'm like, for all these reasons, right? It tastes better, it works better, it works on your gut-brain axis, and no other protein does all that kind of stuff. But from an athlete perspective, I think an athlete is gonna basically look at the same things that anybody else would look at to want to feel better. They're gonna look at our fundamentals pack, which is the gut-brain axis system. They might look at our multivitamin, Vita GBX. If they've got inflammation or pain issues, they're probably gonna look at our relief and our omega. If they're looking at, they want to get, like, they can't eat that perfect diet that David and I were just talking about, more plant-based, and they might think they don't have the time or the knowledge or the energy to, do all that kind of stuff. Well, we have a whole line of functional foods that are proteins and fibers and phytonutrients and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a pretty broad offering that I think that even though we don't market them as like athlete products, you're still fueling the same engine, right? And an athlete they're gonna want to feel better, they're gonna want to bounce back quicker, they're gonna want to sleep better. All that kind of stuff is going to fuel your performance. Hey, Rial, you might be muted.
Oh, I'm David. I'm going to let you have the last question. So think about what you're going to ask. But before we get to that, because I've traveled, blessed to go with David for several years when this started. And I know the number one question that I got every time was, Coach told me I need to put on 10, 15, 20 pounds, or I'm not going to get to play, or I need to do this. And of course, we want them to be bigger, stronger, faster, not bigger, stronger, fatter. So,
right.
And touch on, because the Omegaplex is a big one, how ours is different. So would the B3 be good for them, the guys that need to put the weight on?
Yeah, B3 would be really, really good because it's not a massive calorie bomb, and it's not like an overload of protein. The reason we chose the level of protein that we have there, so B3 is going to combine a lot of those products that I just talked about. It's going to combine our fundamentals, so you get the gut-brain axis. It combines our Vita GBX, which are called multivitamins, so you get all the good nutrition. And it combines all of our functional foods, the protein, the fibers, and the superfood, which is fruit and vegetable extracts. So you get your fruit and veggie servings, right? So that one is going to be a really good place for athletes to go to, because what it does is it's going to help them maintain their muscle mass while they're losing body fat. So just like what you said, we want them bigger, faster, stronger. The way to do that is not just to get bigger, but it's to get bigger in the right way. So you're putting on lean and you're not putting on fat, right? We've seen in trials that we did, so the last research trial that we did on that pack, people lost body fat, specifically around their midsection. They maintained their muscle mass. There was not a single drop in muscle mass, and a lot of these people were also trying to lose weight. Their cholesterols went down, their blood sugars were better, their stress hormones were better, their moods were better, their energy was better, their focus was better, all that kind of stuff. And if you have that, then you're able to put that towards your workouts, right? So you're gonna be able to hit the gym harder, you're gonna be able to do everything that you need to do to put that mass back on. And if your gut is in a better place, you're gonna be able to absorb at a much higher rate all the good nutrients that you're going to need in order to have the fuel to put that mass on.
Awesome. David, you want to?
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you recommend? Like, if someone wanted to get started, have 30 days, and they wanted to make all these kind of improvements in their health, what would be the next steps for those kind of people? What products you recommend?
Yeah, I think that probably the easiest place for an athlete to start would be what Real just said, that Project B3, because it comes in one kit. It gives some nutrition recommendations, it gives some, some sleep recommendations, that kind of stuff to sort of help control stress. We really sort of position that as something that is, hey, let's get you feeling better quickly. And as you feel better, your body's going to improve. And so that body improvement, depending on the kind of regimen that you're on, it might be a weight loss program, it might be a, fit into your genes program, it might be a improve your performance program, really depending on what that person is. But that project, reason I say Project B3 is because it's got the gut brain axis system in there. Plus it's got all the foods that are going to help, help that process along. And because it's in a kit, it's pretty steeply discounted.
One last thing on inflammation, like, so maybe you could kind of touch on this a little bit more, because a lot of people are very confused about like what inflammation really means, and everyone now talks about like this lowers your inflammation, that lowers your inflammation. Yeah. I can't tell you how many things that I take to try and lower my inflammation. It's like chia seeds. I got I got curcumin. I got you name it, and I don't even know if any of these things are working or not.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit better, but tell me about like how that approach that you guys have towards low inflammation, what does that really mean for people in like their longevity and health?
Yeah, so having too much inflammation is quite honestly at the root of every disease that's out there. If you have too much inflammation in your body, and the way we measure that, we can measure compounds in your blood or in your saliva, sometimes in your urine. These compounds called cytokines. Some of them are inflammatory, some of them are anti-inflammatory. If you have too much inflammation, it's going to block your body's ability to have that healing process. And so if your healing process is blocked, you're just in this constant state of breakdown, and eventually that leads to some sort of a disease. So you don't want too much inflammation. You don't want zero inflammation either, because inflammation can protect you from certain things. So you want to get it in the right balance. Almost every single thing on the market, whether it's ibuprofen or aspirin or any of the sort of drugs, or the natural options like a curcumin, which comes from turmeric, or a fish oil, omega-3 fatty acids, or a zillion other things that can help lower inflammation. What they're doing is going at the inflammation directly, right? So trying to slow down the body's production of those inflammatory compounds, or block the activity of those inflammatory compounds. And that can be an effective approach, right? We have products in our product line that do that, going at the inflammation directly. But what we started to do is say, where's that inflammation coming from in the first place? Is it coming from an injury? If so, keep going direct at it. You're going to have an effect. Is it just sort of systemic inflammation that's coming from too much sugar in your diet, or your stress levels, or your lack of sleep, or whatever? Where's the real source of that inflammation? And what we found was the microbiome, the gut, is actually telling your body what level of inflammation it should have. And so we still want to go at that inflammation directly with turmeric and fish oil and all those kinds of things. But if we can do something healthy in the gut, so the gut now produces less of those inflammatory compounds, now you have less to block in the first place. So our perspective is to say, yeah, let's go block them so you feel better now, but let's also slow down the production of the next round of inflammatory compounds so you don't have as much to block. And what you end up seeing is that people feel better quickly, a day, a week, whatever, depending on how much inflammation they have. But then over time, they're feeling better and better and better because they don't have as much inflammation coming to them as possible. So it's kind of like, instead of just mopping up the floor, we're also turning off the faucet, so that you're coming at it from two perspectives. And that's why it's a lot more effective to do it that way.
Awesome. And you know, Dr. Talbott, and we're going to wrap it up because I value your guys' time. You're busy. So this is something I learned. I shared with David this the other day. It took me 5 years to figure it out. So B3 is great for the athletes, but with every all-star athlete, there's a mom and dad. So what the fundamentals, that would be for them?
Yeah, fundamentals does so much, right? And that's why people hear us recommend it almost as the first place to start, because it does the whole gut-brain axis. So the mom and dad, you know, they want to lower their stress. They want to improve their focus. They want to improve their energy levels. They just want to feel better than they currently do right now. Everybody wants to feel better tomorrow than they do today. So fundamentals, it works in the gut, it works on the microbiome, it helps with your gut integrity, it helps your immune system, it helps your inflammation, it helps your neurotransmitter balance. So it really sort of step by step helps to rebalance almost anything that could be out of balance because of the world that we live in. So yeah, fundamentals for sure. And then for athletes, they go that next step and they get the Project B3 pack because it has those other functional foods in it.
Awesome. So Dr. Talbott and David, I really appreciate your time. And those of you that are watching this, guys, what we like to say at Amare, give us 60, 90 days, check out our products, evaluate them, see how they can help you. We have a 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. But also on another level, we're also looking for champions and, you know, athletes, coaches, you know, trainers that will take our mission to globally and help us to make a difference. And with that said, just quickly touch, Dr. Talbott, maybe a little bit about timing and why coaches, trainers may be watching this. Why should they join us on this mission and to make it part of their protocol to help their champions, their athletes be better?
Yeah, this is the unfair advantage that they can give to their athletes that nobody else has caught on to yet. Like it's you know, if there's one thing that I've learned over my athletic career, whether it's working with athletes or trying to be an athlete myself, is that if you can be early, you know, on a new wave of science that's going to help with your performance, you can get that advantage. And I say unfair advantage, it's perfectly legal. The unfair piece of it is that other people haven't caught on to it yet, right? Like what I said earlier, everybody knows how to build muscle, everybody knows how to hydrate, everybody knows how to do all what we would call like the sort of peripheral things. But if we can get here into the head and help those athletes get the mental edge, get them in the zone, get them into the flow state, there's all kinds of ways to describe that state. If we can do that for those athletes, they're going to be better. And the new science is telling us is that the way to solve this problem in the head is to solve this problem in the gut first, because they talk to each other. And that's going to get the athletes to not just be healthier, but they're going to perform better at the same time.
Awesome. So Dr. Talbott, if they want to learn more, you can go to drtalbott.com, correct?
Then go to ShaunTalbott.com. I blog there all the time.
David, if people want to follow you or get in touch with you, how's the best way for them to find you?
Website-wise, you can go to NUCsports.com, or you can just go at Coach Schuman on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate your time. And, you know, if you're watching this, you want to know more, get back with the person that shared this video with you. We'll believe in you till you believe in yourself. Make the rest of the day the best of the day. God bless. Boom.